Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 17 of the insiDE Sports Podcast. That is, of course, with the DE capitalizing. Guys, we've got some big news for you guys. Me and Joey, we happen to go up to Chicago to the ICPA conference, and we walked away with third place in terms of sports podcasts. Way to go, everybody. Quick round of applause for us, obviously. We're going to give ourselves a round of applause. It feels really good. We got acknowledged by that. So, guys, if you're not already listening, you know people that aren't listening. Clearly, they're missing out. Clearly. This is great content you're getting here. Please be sure to share the word. Let's go ahead and jump into it. Let's talk about the women's basketball team. They came off of two, as Joey has written down here, two really annoying losses in the Missouri Valley. We currently sit at 9-16, 6-10 in the Missouri Valley. Great defensive guard, obviously. She's almost like our Jason Kidd, right? You don't go to her for points. But these past 2 weekends, I don't know what Kelly Bond White said to her, but she was like, hey, we're going to need you to put us some points. Jordan, what do you think about this year's team?
I think definitely something that we've talked about a lot in the last few weeks on the podcast. A flip has been switched. A switch has been flipped for this team, especially on the defensive end. We talked a lot about that game against Belmont a couple weeks ago in Nashville, where we allowed 101 points. They come here and they still score 80, so that's not a great defensive day, but progress continues to be made. I don't know if you guys already talked about her, but Jaden Mason, especially the guard play, like you said, Q Love, the guard play has been so good in these last few weeks, particularly the last couple games at home. On the defensive end, getting the steals and throwing it up for the easy layups, getting those extra points. You know, we talk about a lot how this team likes to run. They like to run. Even after a made basket, they're throwing it up the court, trying to get the quickest shot possible. Kind of like that 7 seconds or less offense the Phoenix Suns used to run with Jason Kidd.
Yes. Well, Steve Nash.
And Steve Nash. But Kidd was on the Suns. Was he not on that 7 seconds or less team?
He was not.
Well, I'm getting my history mixed up.
You're good.
But anyway, you see it a lot. Like 2 or 3 times a game, Ashley Jones and Jaden Mason are in this kind of back and forth transition game, and it's working really well for them. Like you said, 9-16 on the season, 6-10, 2 annoying losses. It seemed like it's not really a personnel mismatch in these games. It's more or less just like a disciplinary thing. And I think we'll get there, and we're going to continue to improve. And I'm excited to see how the rest of this season goes, particularly improving on the defensive end.
Yeah. Now, men's basketball. Is it safe to say? I don't want to go out here and really put it out there, but like. All hope is starting to become lost within this program. Not that they're not having a great year. It's been a great year. Much better than last year, right? But it was another week where you watch this team and you go, it's that close against Valpo, really? And then it was a great lead up until Sunday, right? 2 teams, and they come here, great atmosphere, and we kind of had it in our hands, and we'll talk more about that, and then we just end up losing by 2. And it's kind of this thing, I think our one win where we could consider where we were like, we beat that team that was better than us early in the year was Drake. And that was here. And I think that's probably the only one you could say because every other team that's been, too. Yeah, that's true, Belmont. But every other team that's been ranked higher than us, at least down the stretch, we've just fallen apart on. I mean, we talked about the Drake game and how important that was. Bradley was almost like, it was our second chance at redemption. It's like, okay, can we knock off Bradley? Can we get this win? And we don't. So we're sitting at 20-9 overall. Once again, nothing to complain about. 12-6 in the Missouri Valley is still very, very nice. However, for a team that we were talking about earlier this year going, do we make the tournament as a at-large bid?
Yeah.
I mean, Joey, give me your thoughts right now about after this really, really weird week that we saw for the men's basketball team.
No, yeah, that game against Bradley, that was probably the, as I wrote here in my notes, probably the biggest game at the Banterra Center in the past 10 years, and that was just a really disappointing end to it, of course. But I just kind of want to put up the question: did we get our expectations up too high earlier in the year?
Well,
of course,
we had to.
That's no question. We had to have, but I'm just wondering if this is on us mostly. Is this on the team if we're just expecting more out of an SIU team that, I don't know, they had a fair shot earlier and now it's just seeming like we might not even get the number 4 seed, get that bye for the tournament at this point. So
it's true. Well, I like that you touched on that, right? Is like, did we get our expectations too high? It's like, not really. I mean, wasn't this team, before the season, were they projected, second? Did we projected third in the
I believe it was
conference?
third.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really high seed. And we still have a really high seed, I guess. But it's like, right, we have Lance Jones, Marcus Damask, two really great players, and a lot of, like, senior-led guys. We had the recipe for for this to be a really special year. And once again, I got to reiterate, it's not that this isn't a special year, especially with how SIU's been playing as of recently. I mean, this has been the year, but when you're a small school like us and you haven't had a year like this in a long time, we did get our hopes up. But we kind of should have, because this team is veteran-led. Marcus is a great player, and I guess this is kind of where we get to the other part where we go, where did Lance Jones go? I mean, what would you put up an egg against Bradley and like a big? I don't even think he was he in the game down the stretch? I think they might have subbed him out.
Finished with 16 total minutes.
As far as I remember, he started the second half. We had the same 5 that started the game start the second half, and then I think just after maybe a first foul that he had in the second half, he got taken out. But honestly, I didn't hate that because he was a liability pretty much all game.
He was. I mean, and like you said, 16 minutes total played. I mean, it did feel like he was out there, and maybe that kind of is a testament to Mullins maybe didn't get him in rhythm, because when you're only playing 16 minutes a game for a player like Lance Jones, right, where when he's in rhythm, it's great, and when he's not, it's not so great. But yeah, it was just really confusing. It was really disheartening to watch. I mean, and there's two ways to look at this always, right? Especially in basketball, is you can go, we played a pretty rough game. Lance, obviously, like we talked about, put up an egg, and we only lost by 2 to a really good Bradley team. But then you also go like, okay, but why did that happen? Why have we been on such a weird stretch lately? Like, we can keep on playing it's still good because we're not playing our best basketball, but we're still, winning a decent amount of basketball games. But it's like, there has to be a point in which this team flips a switch. And I don't know if that's just, basketball is a long season. So maybe that's just it. Maybe we're getting a little bit of rundown. But I don't know. I mean, if we lose another one of these, I mean, it's like we talked about with the schedule. It's like a pretty easy schedule. Or at least we had like a fairly easy schedule, or at least thought to be easy, and yet we lost one against Illinois State. We lost our 2 against Bradley. I don't know. It's just a shame. Jordan, I haven't asked you yet. What did you think about Bradley specifically in that game?
Bradley specifically, I think it was evident, and we have talked about this a lot, who's going to be our third option.
Yes.
We didn't even have our second option yesterday. Marcus played great. Again,
yes.
It seems like we say that all the time, too. Mm-hmm. We didn't even have our second option yesterday, let alone a third, fourth, and fifth option. And it was evident that Bradley had that second, third, fourth, and fifth option. Even if, like I said, the fifth option. Rank Mast, I think, is their center. Yes. 51, he can shoot. He can get in the paint. He is the core of their offense and defense. He's kind of the quarterback of the defense who, obviously, that side of the ball played really well yesterday for them. Mm-hmm. It did for us, too, but it was just evident that they had more scorers, more guys who can take over any specific possession, no matter what time of the game it is. And ultimately, in the end, that's what led them to get the victory. A guy I feel bad for us is Juwan Newton. Had a wide open 3 with about 30 seconds left, just rimmed out. I mean, it was a good shot.
Yes.
I liked the shot. But yeah, Bradley, it's just evident in these games with Belmont, Drake, Bradley, even with Illinois State. Even that was the game for me where, and we were watching that game all together, where I felt like, okay, maybe we got a little too ahead of ourselves with this team, because Illinois State, even they had 4 or 5 options on the offensive end. We just don't have that, and I don't know. I haven't crunched all the film. I don't know what that's a testament to, but it's been apparent that some of these teams are just built for big games, unlike us, unfortunately. And I hope we can get something together. And you talked about this team flipping that switch. Well, March is here now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's February 20th when we're recording this. By the time this comes out, I mean, we'll be in the weekend. Last couple of games of the year. It's now or never now. And it seems like this team is trending down at the wrong time. But I don't really fault us for getting excited, because they went into Oklahoma State and got a win.
Yeah.
Oklahoma State is not a bad Big 12 team. They're a good team. They've beaten some incredible teams themselves. When we first won that game, I'm like, well, maybe this is a down year for OK State. No, it's not.
No.
And you've liked some of their guys that they have on their team. Bryce Thompson, I think, is one.
Yep, Bryce Thompson.
Avery Anderson, I think, still there.
Musa Kise.
They got some great players who have played
guys
in some really big crunch time games in March. And so I don't fault us for that, but I also think that maybe there were some games early in the season where we should have maybe seen this coming. Can you guys think of any one of those games where maybe we got the win?
Not necessarily.
That's
early.
that's what I'm saying.
I mean,
like,
Southern Indiana. I was shocked.
maybe
they lost
so.
to them.
Yeah, maybe.
But
so.
like, I remember watching that game, and I don't think like Southern Indiana was just not missing.
No,
It was just one of those days for Southern Indiana. I was like, okay, well,
their
that's
first
whatever.
game as a D1 school, that
Exactly.
place was sold out. I
Yes,
mean, yeah.
it was hot there. I like it. Just, I'm so glad you brought that up because that's really what it was. It was Damask just really putting the team on his back yesterday, and it's not to say that there isn't quality players on the team. I don't want it to be construed in a certain way, but it's, you know, I just been right. We don't have that other score. I mean, when Lance Jones is there, yeah, Lance Jones is that score, but he hasn't been putting up those numbers like he did during our winter break stretch.
Did we underestimate the importance of just Lance Jones being even average at best?
Yeah.
When he's just gone,
Yeah.
this team is just in shambles.
Yeah.
So, and it's just completely, I shouldn't say in shambles, I think that's overdoing it probably, but
Yes.
Marcus has so much weight on his shoulders whenever Lance isn't there to back him up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw that exactly this week, specifically with Bradley. So
I completely agree with you. I think that I just like to see. I think it's Xavier Johnson. Like and Juwan Newton, when they get that three, they're like a little hesitant. But I don't blame them because they're not exactly 3-point shooters. I just don't think we have enough. Right, it's been something that we talked about a lot. I was always like super like, oh my gosh, like our 3-pointers are really good. But I think that we're kind of dying down in that department because specifically because Lance isn't making like 4 to 5 a game. Damask lit it up from 3 the other day, but like, you know, it really does kind of hurt when Xavier gets that, like he does this. And he does a little pump fake, and you think he's going to shoot it, but then he just kind of drives in. And all these players are great in their own individual departments, but it's like, you know, our shooters, Trent Brown, Foster Wonders, they don't have the size to, like, defend and play really good D, so it's like, I just think our team is really almost weird. Like, we're a very weirdly built team in which, you know, I mean, we don't have the luxuries of Duke, Alabama, we can go pick guys whoever we want, so I'm not criticizing our recruiting process at all. I just think that it's... When I watch the game, sometimes I'm left scratching my head. In terms of, like, what certain lineups give us. I don't know. I know it's very, very broad. I completely understand that, but...
And I just want to touch on it before we move on. I know you were very upset with the late game situation there with some substitutions. I just wanted to hear more from you about that.
So... In particular, it's a tough situation, and I can't necessarily speak on it because, you know, if I was a coach, I don't know what I would do. But I was a little thrown off by J.D. Mula getting subbed in and out for Clarence Rupert late in the game. Rupert had that dunk, which obviously was fun late in the game, but that doesn't necessarily matter. I've always been, and I've talked about it on the spot, I like Clarence Rupert a lot just because of what he gives you, not only... He can dribble better than a lot of big guys can. He plays much bigger than he actually is. And I understand J.D. Mula's a senior, and I like when J.D. Mula comes on the floor. He's a great rebounder. He plays tenaciously. But, like, when you're in that lane good situation, we've seen over and over again this year, J.D. Mula gets himself into foul trouble, right? He ran out on that three-point shooter, and in all honesty, it was just bad closeout. It was just bad closeout, and then it led to a foul. And that happens. Nobody says that doesn't happen, but he committed 2 fouls within the last 2 minutes that really, really hurt the team in costly situations. And I think that, right, because I believe that why Clarence Rupert was taken out was because I think he got fouled twice and he missed about 4 out of 5 free throws, or he missed 3 out of 4 free throws, which obviously that's rough, and he needs to be better in that department, especially in late game situations. However, when you sub in J.D. Mula, who's... I mean, what's he shooting for free throw in the year? Do we even know the number? I mean, it's just not.
I have no idea.
I think it's fair to say that he's not necessarily a reliable free throw shooter either.
No, he's not.
And I like
Clarence
Clarence Rupert's form better, even if he's on this rough patch, just like Lance Jones was the other day. I almost want Lance Jones in the game more than 16 minutes because you don't know what you're getting with the other guy. So, like I said, I don't know. I can't. You know, I'm not saying I have all authority and I know everything. I'm not practicing with these guys. You know, I'm not seeing everyday late game situations. However, I was maybe perhaps a little critical in our group chat after the game of just wondering why. And I wish I was in that press conference to see if somebody asked him about it or if he did have an answer for that. I still support Brian Mullins. I do think he's a good coach, but nevertheless, that was just one thing that I think is important to touch on. So I'm glad that you asked me about that. So for softball, they had a pretty good Puerto Vallarta. Oh boy, did I say that right? Puerto Vallarta. Yeah, challenge. Let's hope that's correct.
I think so.
They went 2-2. Not bad. We beat Kansas, right? Good win. You know, we beat Sacramento State to close the weekend, winning 9-1. Once again, that's a good win. Put up a lot of points. We did get blown out by Ole Miss though, 13-0. But Ole Miss is kind of a softball and baseball powerhouse, so you know it's not like it was expected, but you'd like to maybe see a little bit more competition, but nevertheless. And then North Dakota State, we lost to them as well. So. Once again, pretty good. We're sitting at 6-2 on the year. Pretty excited, and we've got the Coach B Classic coming to Carbondale this weekend. Pretty excited for it. Of course, you know when all the baseball stuff starts opening up, it's supposed to get cold again this weekend. That's a shame. If it was what it was today, which we're filming this, it's like 67 degrees outside.
Be perfect.
I know, right? Anyways, Joey, tell me about the softball. What have you seen?
We'll probably be wearing winter coats this weekend. But, I mean, it seems evident right now that the pitching so far this year is going to run through Maddie Everly. She's been on fire. She allowed her first run of the year this weekend, but she's still only at a .91 ERA through 23 innings this year just so far. So that's pretty amazing. She had a complete game win against Kansas. That's why we did so well then. She only gave up the one run. I think the other one was like an unearned one, but I mean, Hannah Hockerman, she's one of our other newer pitchers. She had a wonderful game in relief against Sacramento State. In relief of Stinson, which that was just very, very encouraging to see from one of our younger pitchers doing so well in relief like that. Offense kind of slowed down this weekend with that shutout game against Ole Miss. We only had the 17 runs, only 17, as if that's terrible. But I mean, we had, I think, 22 in the last tournament. So
that's right.
That's
why I kind of wanted to point this out. Like, we scored a lot of points for this team. You take out that Ole Miss game, I wonder what
it's runs, by the way.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm gonna let you know I've never been a big baseball, softball guy. I understand the game. That's right. I'm definitely doing my homework. Don't get me wrong, but
can't wait to see you this weekend at softball games.
Runs. I will. Anyways, take out that Ole Miss game. I'd love to know what our run differential is.
Yes.
As opposed to point differential, but. I mean, I feel like we gotta be way up there.
Oh, yeah.
It's really nice when you see stuff like that. Anyway, continue what you were saying.
And someone else I just wanted to mention, Aubrey DuPron. She's hitting .636 to start the year in 8 games.
Incredible.
That's incredible. I think she has already double-digit hits, so that's just insane. I don't know if she. I'd like to see if she was on like the MVC Player of the Year watch or something like that. Something like that. But yeah, we still find ways to win. DuPron, Warwick, Riley Hamilton. Those are going to be our big names, at least in the offensive game, to start the year. And we have some newcomers that have kind of like been shining so far. Jackie Liz, she's had a hit in every game this year. That's an 8-game hitting streak to start the season. That's just something to be mindful about for the future of this team. And then she just looks to be a regular starting shortstop as a freshman. So that's just something amazing to think about. Probably could have taken that North Dakota State game. I think that was another close one. I think we lost 5-3, something like that.
Yes.
But still a solid start to this year, and looking forward to the rest of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, baseball and softball are the definitions of the team game. We talk about how Marcus has been seemingly the only thing going on a consistent basis for the basketball team. Well, in baseball and softball, if only one player, whether that's offense or pitching, is going, you're probably going to lose every game. That's not the case for the softball team. You just mentioned 5 or 6 players who have made an impact already this season. When they come home this weekend, I cannot wait. That stadium should be packed out. Charlotte West Stadium, go. Go. I will be there, and I know Joey will too. It's gonna be fun, and the Coach B Classic is a great.
Hold on, I'll be there.
I know.
Stop this. What are we doing?
I didn't say that you were going to be there.
My family comes in for the weekend. I miss a women's basketball game, and all of a sudden I'm getting just loads of slander on the pod.
You were riding high from our win this past weekend. We had to dumb you down a little bit.
I guess so. Clearly.
Anyway,
unbelievable. Go back.
My favorite thing about the Coach B Classic is it opens, for me at least, when I was a freshman a couple of years ago, I got to do stats for the entire Coach B Classic. So that was not only our games, but some neutral games against teams that people in the area have probably no rooting interest for. But it gets you a good sense of the kind of kind of diversity in play style in softball. I think if you're not a softball fan, like I'm sure all three of us aren't, naturally softball fans.
Mm-hmm.
When you come out to the Coach B Classic, it just gives you a sense of how hard these girls work, how different their play style is in each and every team. I think in baseball, it's harder to have that more. I keep saying diverse, that more kind of different play style from team to team. In softball, it's wildly different, and I love to see how these teams play. I cannot wait to watch SIU come back this weekend. Maddie Everly, who you mentioned, I mean, having that ace at the top, just to know, it's kind of like DeGrom, Jacob DeGrom for the Mets when he's not injured. When she's out there, she's gonna give you hit. She's gonna shove, and you already know that. So, 6-2. Can't wait to add a few more wins this weekend. I'm calling it. We're adding at least 2 wins this weekend. Multiple wins for the Dogs this weekend.
Good stuff. Glad to hear it. Baseball. Let's talk baseball. They just had their first weekend. They went 2-2. Once again, we're just putting up a lot of runs, not points.
There you go.
See, guys, I'm already learning,
Yes.
folks. Wofford, they win the first one, lose the second one. Then we end up beating Townsend and then lose another one to Wofford. However, if we're going once again by run differential, technically we beat Wofford on the weekend because we beat them by 5 the first game and we only lost by 1 the other 2 games. So, you got to take whatever you have at face value. So now they're 2-2. They're gonna have Austin, PA. Did I say that right?
Just P.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, so this baseball team is gonna have Austin P. Tuesday, which I guess we'll find out whether they win or lose by the time this pod gets aired. However, then they're going to have a weekend series against Jacksonville State Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, all of which will be away, unfortunately. But I think that next week, they will be coming back to Carbondale, so that'll be fun to watch. Joey, give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's just interesting to me how both the softball and baseball teams went 2-2, but I feel a different feeling from the softball 2-2 than the baseball 2-2.
Yeah.
Baseball, I kind of expected 3-1, maybe a sweep as well.
Mm-hmm.
The pitching probably could have done, at least starting pitching specifically, probably could have went a bit longer. I feel like I wrote down here. I think we had 16 2/3 innings just from the bullpen. I think that's quite a bit in the 4 games. I think we only got like 5 or 4 innings from each starter. So, I mean, not ideal. Kind of forced our relievers to step up, and it just didn't work out for us in those 2 games against, I think it was Wofford.
Yeah.
Was it Wofford?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was Wofford.
Yeah.
But yeah, Matthew Steidel, we were kind of talking about on the last podcast, he was supposed to be one of like the big names, at least in the pitching for us. And in his first outing, he gave up 3 runs just in 2 2/3 innings as a reliever. That's the only appearance he made this weekend. Not the most concerning start to the season, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 24 runs in just the 4 games. We can't keep relying on that all year. And I mean, I know it's just a start, so I'm just hoping it's just rust. But I mean, I guess we'll see how these starters manage to get some more innings out of them this year.
Yeah, the last 2 seasons, the Salukis have been able to rely on the offense to just continue to pound out runs over and over again, averaging over like 5 or 6 last year, which is crazy. And at some point, your pitching has to step up as well. The thing that I'm going to watch for, especially over these first few weeks, is who emerges from the starting rotation as that person who you go out and they're going to allow maybe 3 or less runs every single time, because in every great rotation, you have that one guy who's going to do that. A guy that I want to do that is Ben Chapman. He's been here for a few years now. Last year he dealt with a lot of injury, wasn't able to pitch a lot, and when he wasn't, he struggled. You could just tell he didn't have as much oomph on his fastball. But he's a guy who's been here for a while. He's been with Rhodes all these years. I trust Lance Rose to, I say figure this out. We just had a 2-2 weekend, so it's like 0-4. But certainly the expectations are high. The bar is set high. We're the preseason favorite, and we have the MVC Player of the Year coming back in Caper Rog. Who from this starting rotation is going to step up and be that guy, that Friday starter for a weekend series? I'm really interested to see when we come back, especially after another weekend against Jacksonville State, how this team is going to shape and go in form.
And another starter I know we haven't talked about yet is Jake Combs. He had, I think, the 5 innings, and I think he only allowed 2 runs in that. I think he played the one game that we didn't play against Wofford. Townsend. That's
yes.
the team.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just on the offensive side, our guy Ryan Rodriguez.
That's right. Shout out Ryan Rodriguez.
Ryan Rodriguez doing well. He's hitting .333 to start the year. Nathan Bandy, I think he only had 2 appearances, 7 at-bats, but he already has 4 hits to start the year. That's encouraging. Somebody that I specifically wanted to mention, new catcher, Cole Chrisman. He had a 2-run shot in his first at-bat in a Saluki uniform.
Nice. Shout out all the Coles out there. That's what's up.
Yeah, Coles are just
We're built
winning.
for greatness. What can you say?
Coles were just winning this weekend.
That's right.
guess,
Coles were just winning.
But yeah, that's very encouraging for the Saluki team. I don't think we were getting much from the catching position last year. So that's just, like I already said, encouraging. So hopefully that just some rust getting off from the off-season and everything. And hopefully, I don't know how to end that. But
It felt like... We'll cut the very last part of that. I remember covering last year's team. It felt like we would almost... This baseball team under Lance Rhodes, it almost feels like we're bound to run into these weird weekends and just like weird stretches. So maybe we just had one to start it off. I think that the expectations are still really high, but yeah, that's just kind of the nature of this team. So, I mean, hopefully we can work more of that rust off than we did last year, but yeah. So now we're going to go ahead and talk to outfielder Tori Schullian from the SIU softball team on this week's episode of Saluki Space. On this week's episode of Saluki Space, we have outfielder for the SIU softball team, Tori Schullian, with us today. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and so we're going to just go ahead and jump right into the questions. First of all, most important on everybody's list. You got a favorite movie of all time?
Probably The Sandlot.
The Sandlot? That's a classic.
perfect baseball movie.
That's right.
For sure.
Classic baseball softball answer.
I love the answer to start off with. And just getting right into it and talking about love of baseball with Sandlot. When did you start kind of falling in love with softball and everything, and just know that that's what you wanted to do at the next level?
I started playing when I was 5, and then I started taking it more serious. Probably around 12 and 14, those age groups are pretty much when travel ball starts picking up and your recruitment process starts there. So that's pretty much when I figured it out.
Yeah, wow. Interesting. So a lot of baseball and softball players, right? It's a game that's built a lot of the time on traditions, these superstitions. Do you happen to have any of those yourself, or could you tell us any of your teammates that have like some pretty wacky ones?
I would say we always listen to the same songs in the locker room before the games.
Interesting. What's playing on those?
Definitely No Air.
All right. That's a good
That's
one.
a go-to.
That's a good banger.
And then for me personally, I always get dressed in the same order. So socks first, then work your way up.
Interesting.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
That is very interesting. I think we talk about these routines and everything. We talked about routines with Ryan last week on the podcast. Ryan Rodriguez, the third baseman for baseball. And we're talking about his walk-up song. Do you have a special walk-up song? I mean, of course you have a walk-up song, but do you have a special reasoning behind your walk-up song at all? What is it?
My walk-up song this year is Man, I Feel Like a Woman. And it's been different every year. Kind of just have fun with it. I want a song that I can sing along to, something to pump me up. But that's pretty much it. No real meaning behind it.
That would be Cole's walk-up song.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it is, once again, another banger. So clearly you got a good taste in music.
Right.
Like, we got to, I definitely would probably do the same thing. There's no, because I think, didn't Ryan say it was like California Love by Tupac? Because obviously he's from California. See, I'm not nearly as sensitive as that. I used to get upset when I was like, I can't pick like multiple throughout the year. Anyways.
Right.
So when you played, you played high school. Sorry, you played softball at a younger level. Did you play any other sports going in high school? Like, did you
I played volleyball in high school.
Volleyball?
Too. Yeah.
Volleyball. How good were you at volleyball? Do you think you could have gone D1 in that? You could brag a little bit. Go ahead.
There could have been a chance.
Alrighty. See, there you go. That's what we like to hear. Yeah. It's good.
So, I mean, you're generally an outfielder. You've been an outfielder at least in your time with SIU. I'm not sure what you were doing in high school, but is there like a specific side of the field that you enjoyed most? Right field, center field, left field? I know some people have preferences. Do you even have a preference at all?
I came in my freshman year and played mostly left field, and then now I've switched to right. I tend to like right field more in college.
Okay.
Interesting.
Awesome.
And so we talked about this a little bit before the show, but you're from Southern Illinois. You're from Heron, Illinois, which is pretty close to here. Was it ever like really a question when you decided to commit here? Like, was SIU always kind of the top of your board? Did you want to come here when you were younger? Kind of give us your thoughts behind that in your recruiting process, if you can think back to then. Was there really a lot up in the air? And it's okay if there was, obviously.
I'd say when I was younger, I wanted to play at the University of Illinois because that's where my dad played baseball.
Gotcha.
And then when I started to get recruited, it was between a couple different schools, Belmont being one of them. And then ultimately I just decided on SIU. It felt like family. I liked that I got to stay close to home and have a lot of people come to my games and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
So something I just want to clarify before asking this question, but is this your last year with SIU?
Yes.
Okay, so you are entering your last season here. What's kind of like the outlook afterwards beyond that? I know we talked a little bit about you mentioned your major, like a physical therapist. Is that a possibility of the future?
Yes, so next year I'll be going to Belmont and I'll be studying physical therapy there in their program.
That's great.
Interesting. And so this off season is kind of the first sort of off season with Coach Sewell at the helm as opposed to Blaylock. You know, you guys, and Blaylock was there for forever. So people don't really know Coach Sewell like a whole lot. Can you tell us something that maybe stands out to her about? Hold on, let's just cut that. I just want to get the question right. Like, what would you say about Coach Sewell maybe stands out to you guys, whether it be in the locker room or maybe just her personality that we don't really know a whole lot about?
I would say Coach Sewell is probably the most competitive person I've ever met in my entire life.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah.
She hates to lose at anything. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter if it's games, practice, hacky before a game. She takes everything very serious, very competitive.
Even more than Carrie?
I think so, yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
That's funny.
And mentioning Carrie, I guess. To me, it kind of seems as if Coach Sewell is trying to keep it more of the same, transitioning between her being the coach and Carrie. Would you kind of agree with that?
I would agree. I think they both have very similar coaching styles, so there have not been a lot of changes. And they both communicated very well when Jen was the assistant, so not a lot has changed.
And I just want to correct this, but like the staff is a lot similar as well. Pitching coach and everything around that's around the same people.
Yes, our pitching coach is the same. She's been here for several years, and then we added Mary Jo Fernbach this year, and this is her first year here.
And so Sewell's obviously coming into a pretty, not tough situation, obviously, because you guys have been winning a lot, but that's kind of, she has to uphold this kind of standard you guys have set. Does it ever get to you guys? Is there ever like pressure that you feel you guys face? Is it hard to sometimes block out the outside noise?
I think our team does a really good job of kind of blocking out. We play our own game and we just focus on what we do in practice. We take practice very serious. And I think that this year so far it's really shown how serious we do take practice and come out playing, ready to play each game.
So yeah, earlier we mentioned the pregame song is No Error, and I feel like that's kind of fitting specifically for you because you have no errors in your career here at SIU. Does that kind of set up like a standard for all the other girls in the locker room to see you as more of a role model in a way, I guess?
I'll be honest, I didn't know that.
Huh.
You didn't know
Before
that?
you just said that now.
Well, guess what? It's bound to happen because he just gave you a jinx.
I do not like to focus on stats at all. No, I don't really focus on it at all, honestly.
Yeah, so definitely don't be thinking about that when that ball's flying out here.
Of course, now
No
I'm going to
pressure
jinx
now.
it for these games
That's right.
upcoming.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
We talked about your, obviously, individual success, and you're a very good outfielder, but can you put us onto any other girls on the team, maybe new transfers or freshmen that have come in that, you know, we're going to see them put up numbers this year?
Specifically for outfielders, I would say Aubrey DePron, another senior. She's already leading our team in stats right now offensively. Emma Austin is another outfielder that has had success this year already, and Liz Warwick for sure has already been having a really great start to the season.
Gotcha.
So something else that we also talked with Ryan about last week, and I just think this is just a huge thing with baseball and softball in general, but getting into slumps, it's so hard to get out of them, and just as any athlete in any sport, it's hard to get out of them. Do you find yourself when you do get into a slump having to change up your routine? Do you really worry about your routine at all? Do you kind of make sure you keep the same? What do you at least attempt to do, if anything at all, to get out of a slump sometimes?
I think to get out of a slump, I just take it back to the basics and focus on the fundamentals. So whether that's hitting off of the tee or just front toss, just kind of breaking it down, breaking my swing down. I try not to overthink a whole lot, but obviously sometimes I can get the best of you. But I just try to go back to the basics.
I think some players subconsciously probably start to try to maybe swing for the fences because they're just so frustrated that they haven't gotten a hit in a little while. And, you know, do you find yourself sometimes even doing that at all?
I do. I try to focus more on like the quality of that bat
Right.
instead of like the outcome, because obviously sometimes you hit the ball hard and it goes right to somebody. So I feel like if I personally focus on the quality of that at bat, then I don't get in my head as much.
Of course.
Interesting. And so, just lastly here, the last question we got for you. What do you? We've already seen you guys are 6-2. You guys sitting pretty right now. You guys are doing really, really well. What should we expect out of this year's team? Should we expect? Do you think Coach Sewell will be able to uphold the really great run that this SIU softball team's on?
I do think so. I
Awesome.
think we will make postseason. Hopefully, win a conference championship and head to a
Good.
regional.
That's right. That's all the stuff we want to hear. So we really appreciate you being here with us, Tori. Once again, this is Tori Schullian, outfielder for the SIU softball team, and we thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Alrighty, folks. Last weekend we didn't give you anything for the Told You So, but for this week, we want to go ahead and recap the NBA All-Star weekend that just happened. First of all, shout out Mac McClung. I put on my story, small-town white boy hero. That guy was living the dream in high school. I was like, that's definitely going to be me, right? Turns out it wasn't. However,
And somebody told me he kind of looks like you a little bit.
Who said that?
Listen. I didn't
Oh,
say
it was
that.
him.
No,
It was him.
no, I
You
didn't.
said
First
that
of
you
all,
look like my-
okay, Mac McClung's 6'2". I'm 6'2" in shoes. In shoes, 6'2". And I just think, we both got the round face, and I used to have his haircut. Now I don't. So I just made a remark. I don't know why that's something you guys are really on my ass this week.
I heard
That's
it
just
twice
Joey.
at ICPA.
I don't.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it was the ICPA. It just turned Joey against me for whatever reason.
Sheesh.
Nevertheless.
Your name was first on it. Daily and Joey.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
Well, because it's like, who's the better podcaster? Anyways,
Right.
So
Mhm.
Mac McClung saves the dunk contest. Shaq was right. We had a couple rough years. Remember last year? I think it was last year where Jalen Green took 20 attempts
Yeah.
in the dunk contest, and it was like giant waste of time. Absolutely the worst. Mac McClung, way to go out there. Goes 4 for 4 on all of his first attempts.
Yeah.
That's how you do a dunk contest. I mean, that was just awesome. All of his dunks. I think his first dunk was the best one. Just because I love the creativity, right? 3 out of his 4 dunks I've never ever seen before. Now the last one, his finisher, you never like when the finisher's, been used before, at least in my opinion.
Mhm.
However, Victor Oladipo's 3 inches taller than Mac McClung, so I'm like, a 5'40" at 6'2" is ridiculous. If you guys haven't watched the NBA dunk contest, the highlights from it, be sure to go out and watch it because it is spectacular what that guy pulled off. And really good performance from Trey Murphy too. I loved that cock back into a reverse windmill. That was really, really great. But
I wish we saw one of the kiss the rim dunks. I don't know if you guys have seen that viral video from the little kid that was dunking in his room on the little.
Oh,
backboard,
yeah.
And he
yeah.
kisses the rim for a split
Well, you
second.
know who probably could have is Jericho Sims. The only problem is big guys just don't win it unless your name is Dwight Howard, and it was 2009.
Superman.
Yeah, Superman's in the building. He was always creative with his dunks too. That's why I liked him. But Jericho Sims was like, "Let me put my shoulder in." Which, if you're dunking with your shoulder, that is tough. Not
Yeah.
that dunking with your shoulder, but putting his whole.
Yeah.
But then again, it's I don't know. When you're competing against 6'2" guys, I don't know.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, Dame Lillard walked away with the 3-point championship contest. That was pretty good. I know that you were pretty happy about that. We were talking about that on the bus ride. I was like, who do you think's going to win? I wanted to go sleepy pick Tyrese Halliburton, who did have a really good attempt, but Dame Lillard, Dame time, inevitably did get it done. And then last, just thoughts on the All-Star game. Oh, boy, did it suck this year. It was absolute stinker.
Yeah.
And some years we're going to have that. There was a lot of questions that was, this is the worst game ever played. Is there any way to fix it? And I think of last year and the year when they first introduced the Kobe Bryant rule or the way of going about it, where it's you know what? I don't know what to tell you. There's some years it's actually going to be really fun, like when Giannis was guarding LeBron and there's that famous photo of them. And then there's some years it's going to suck like this year. And this year it definitely sucked.
Yeah.
I feel bad for the NBA players. They probably didn't even want it to make it good because they were like, you're telling me last year I had to go to Cleveland for the All-Star game and now I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah. Now, I'd personally love to be in Utah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But an NBA player, I don't know. I think they owe him. I think they're due for Miami or Los Angeles
Yes.
for next year.
For sure.
I'm actually not sure, so I'll have to look that up. at some
Oh,
point.
I know. It's Indianapolis.
No, it's not. They're torturing these guys. What are they doing?
Yeah, Indy's going to be good from a fan standpoint because it's
that's
like basketball heaven.
That is
but
true.
For a player standpoint, All-Star Weekend, you got to go to Indianapolis in the winter.
Well, in the 2 years before, it's like you throw them a bone, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe throw them down to Houston.
Right. Yeah.
Put them in Dallas. Speaking of which, did you see all the Zion clips about Dallas?
No, I didn't.
Zion's got a girl in Dallas, fellas. I think it's clear to point out. He's just like, what's your favorite city? And he's like, New York, like the classics, and then there's Dallas. Dallas is a great city, but like, I think there's something there that we need to look at. Anyways, while we come back from the All-Star weekend, I just want to throw out some picks for this weekend. We got a great Friday, Thunder at Suns. I think it's going to be a great game. People who are like, oh, Thunder are tanking, I'm not going to watch the Thunder.
They're not tanking.
At this point, you're done. Okay?
Yeah.
Sorry, folks out there listening, if that is your take, but like, watch Thunder play basketball. I have like my top 5 league pass teams to watch. Magic are one of them, right? Shout out to the Orlando Magic. That's like my number 1 right now. But one of those teams in there is the Thunder for sure. SJ is going to score 30. Josh Giddey's going to have like 3 passes that make your brain explode. And that rookie Jalen Williams, I think he's the one that goes by J-Dub.
Mm-hmm.
Bucket and a half. That guy's actually special. So tune into Thunder and Suns on Friday. Sunday, I had to throw this one. I had to throw this one out there just because it's so good. But Lakers are going to play the Mavs, and I'm telling you, if you don't think LeBron James is going to be blowing kisses at Kyrie Irving from the Lakers bench to the Mavs bench, being like, so you want to come over to Los Angeles next year? Because we already saw it, right? Wasn't Kyrie's first pick in the All-Star draft?
Yeah, I think
so. He was like, I'm taking the young god, Kyrie Irving. Come over here, buddy. Yeah. And he's like, just like pretending like he didn't kind of treat him like a little child for years and years. But also Sunday, Kings at Thunder. Once again, Thunder for the same reasons. It's 2 young point guards that are really coming into their own in the league. De'Aaron Fox on the Kings side. And then I also want to throw out Sunday. Sunday's got a good slate, clearly. The Clippers at Nuggets. I think we're about to see 2 of the most widely different basketball styles played. You're going to watch the Clippers, who just signed Russell Westbrook. Awful signing.
Yeah, awful.
Way to just ruin your title hopes that you didn't already have, I guess, but nevertheless.
They're trying to be the best defensive team ever. I think they're unders.
Westbrook.
I saw a post today. It was like, which team who's going to stop this big 3? I was like, Russell Westbrook's going to stop this.
Russell Westbrook's going to stop
He's
his
gonna
own
stop
team.
Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's my point is we're going to watch the Clippers play some of the most ugliest brand of basketball where Russell Westbrook's going to throw it in the crowd. You're going to have brick after brick. Kawhi Leonard's going to play iso ball. Paul George is going to dribble for 10 seconds, then shoot a step back 3.
Yes.
And then you're going to watch just absolutely beautiful Nuggets basketball. Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray are going to be cutting. Yes. Nikola Jokic is going to be throwing those Josh Giddey-like passes, which is hilarious that I even just compared those two because Nikola Jokic is way better.
About to win his 3rd MVP in a row, potentially.
Yes. I mean, and that could be a debate that we have later in the year for sure.
Yeah.
Is
Jokic shouldn't happen.
Is Jokic number 1 now?
Let me say, it probably won't happen because voter fatigue's a thing, and they probably won't give it to him 3 in a row. He probably deserves it.
But he's the odds-on favorite, isn't he?
Well, it doesn't mean that they're actually going to give it to him.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, who else would you give it to right now? Nuggets are number 1 in the league. We'll break that down some other time.
I don't know.
So if we're going through my picks in these games, I guess I should throw those out there most likely.
Yeah.
I like a lot of the home ones. I think I'm gonna go Suns. I'm gonna go Lakers on Sunday just because I think LeBron's gonna be trying so hard to convince Kyrie, come here this summer.
Yes.
Please, please, please. I'm gonna go Thunder at home on Sunday, and I'm gonna go Nuggets at home. I'm taking a lot of the home teams. And then before we get into college basketball, Jordan.
Yes.
Throughout this absolute gem of a segment that he's gonna go ahead and lead for us right quick.
It's
no,
nothing,
it is. There's a lot of good points here,
Jordan.
But there's a lot of people. I think Joey's one of these people who, when football season comes in, that's all they care about, and I don't blame you for that. But I've got some 5 storylines for the college basketball season that you may have missed if you were just watching football, focusing on the Super Bowl.
Well, we've been talking a lot about football.
Yeah,
too.
we have. We focused a lot on the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I've been keeping my eye on college basketball. I always do. It might be my favorite sport. I don't know. It's just my niche, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
The first big storyline I want to give out to the people something that has only happened, I think, twice in history. That might be wrong. Twice in the last few years, in the last time I can remember. The Northwestern Wildcats, known Harvard of the Midwest, they don't really care about athletics.
Yes.
When a team comes to their arena, it's like that team's home game. Doesn't really matter if it doesn't matter. They have won 20 games, and like I said, it's February 20th. They are 20-7 on the season. They may have won a game or two by the time you're seeing this. They play, I think, at U of I on Thursday, so that'll be great. That'll be an awesome game to watch, an electric atmosphere. But they're shooing to make the NCAA tournament for the second time ever in their history. Shout out to my dad, who is the only, outside of maybe the city of Chicago, the only Walmart Northwestern fan. He didn't go there. He has zero connections. I don't really know why he's a Northwestern fan.
That's actually
But
wild.
he loves the underdog role.
Okay.
And safe to say Northwestern is the underdog in pretty much everything except for, I think, women's lacrosse. So Northwestern, huge storyline. It's incredible what they're doing. They keep beating these good teams. They just beat Purdue, Indiana, and Iowa all on the road. They were at home, but it was basically a road game. All 3 in a row. So that's crazy. The second big storyline that I have, and I know Cole's going to hate this.
Yep, we're going to.
But it's true.
We're going to debate a little bit.
But it's true. And if
we're going to debate a little bit.
But if you're going to say that this isn't true, then you're just a liar.
No.
And you might be. Because you say you like the women's basketball team as well. North Carolina, Duke, and Kentucky are all wildly underperforming this year. North Carolina is on the verge of maybe missing the tournament completely. Now, granted, some of that blue blood bias might kick in at the last second. They might get an 11 seed or whatever, and probably go on a run. Now that I'm saying this,
no, they won't.
Kentucky, until they beat Tennessee this past weekend, was on the verge of being in the same category as North Carolina. And Duke has gotten some easy ACC wins. Particularly this last one on the road at Syracuse. So they're going to make the tournament, but compared to where they were ranked at the beginning of the season, compared to how good their recruiting class was, all these what I'm saying are facts. So I don't know why you disagree with them.
We're going to break it down.
Duke is wildly underperforming this season.
Okay.
All 3 of these teams are.
So let me tell you
and
why.
It's fun to watch.
Let me tell you why you're specifically wrong. So.
Okay.
So North Carolina, you're correct about you're correct about UNC and Kentucky.
Well, right, yeah.
You're correct about those. However, this Duke team, if you've been following Duke basketball, I don't know if you know this, I do.
I do too.
Clearly not that much because you knew that this year's team, there was no title hopes like there was last year.
What?
There was no ACC champion. Dude.
What's the difference? They have a better roster. Well,
recruiting
rankings wise.
This guy,
they have better overall
smoked
players.
No,
they don't have.
Fellas, this guy smoked meth before the pod. I don't know what happened.
Daily household is inflamed.
I'm not saying
Seriously.
that this roster is actually.
Don't let Matthew get a hold of this clip right here.
This is not. I'm not saying this year's roster. Clearly, it's not as good as it was last year. I mean, there's no Paolo on this team. There's no Paolo really in college basketball.
There's nobody like Paolo, you know.
No, he's a great player. They don't have that guy this year.
Mm-hmm.
Lively especially has underperformed.
Okay, that's my point.
Wildly.
That's my point.
Why? Some injuries. Derek Whitehead. He's the X factor.
He is.
If he gets healthy, they might be able to go on a run. But he's been injured a lot this year. So
yes,
I'm not saying that they're a bad team. I'm just saying they're underperforming based on.
But you can't say they're underperforming.
Yes, I
can.
Because
we knew they weren't going to be good this year.
We didn't.
Yes. There was no.
No. Who was saying that Duke's not going to be good this year? Did you think that they'd be 19-8?
Huh?
Did you? If I told you that before the season that they were 19-8
I'd probably want like 20-6. I think 20-6.
Like Boston College or.
I'd want like 20-6 instead.
Right, exactly. Like
we lost a Wake this year, which hurt.
Based on preseason expectations, of which those expectations were extremely high, which they always are for Duke. They're not a bad team. They're going to make the tournament. They could go to the Sweet 16 or something.
Can I tell you the difference? Because fine. I'll level with you. They're underperforming. But let me tell you the difference between UNC and Kentucky and then Duke, right?
Okay.
Kentucky is bringing back the National Basketball Player of the Year in Oscar Tshiebwe. They brought in multiple transfers to try and help them, and they brought in a top 3 recruiting class.
Sure.
UNC is bringing back almost their entire roster outside of Brady Manick.
Yeah.
And they've still been just not a good basketball team. This is the argument, and I think I said this before the season. I want to roll it back to whatever episode we were talking about, but I said this year's UNC team is last year's UCLA team, where everybody went, oh my gosh, this 11 seed went all the way to the Final Four. oh my God, they're bringing everybody back.
Yeah.
Well, they definitely should be the number 1 in the AP poll.
What I would say to that
There's
is...
a reason they were a 9 seed last year.
No, I understand. There's a reason. Yeah, there is a reason for that. And UCLA, although they didn't make the Final Four again, they backed it up by having a great regular season. They made it to, I believe, the Sweet 16 still and lost to North Carolina, oddly enough.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is North Carolina, we have to remember they weren't really a great team last year.
They were. That's
They
my
weren't.
point.
They were an 8 seed. They all the metrics or whatever
Yes.
were really, really low on them. They
Yes.
weren't a great team that just got hot on a magical run. And I thought UCLA would be the same way, but like I said, they backed it up and they've continued their success. They're great again this year.
Yeah, UCLA is actually very good this year.
They're
which is the funny
incredible
part
this
of it.
year. Yeah.
But
I'm not saying that Duke is on the same level. Like if I were to
like Duke turned off
Kentucky
their
and
entire
Carolina,
roster.
it'd be Duke is up here, Kentucky, and UNC. Like Duke is the best of these three, but that doesn't mean they're not underperforming based on season expectations. That's all I'm trying to say.
I guess that's true. I want to make it apparent to the viewers out there. Like we brought back Jeremy Roach. Jeremy Roach, I know you're watching. I like you, but if you're like our go-to scorer at the end of games, all right, I'm a little scared.
Okay.
All right,
That's
and
fine.
it's been a shame that Derek Whitehead. I think Derek Lively is also probably the worst number 1 overall rated ESPN prospect probably ever
Yeah.
for a guy that's like contributing like 5 points a game.
Yeah.
Why he was number 1, it blows my mind. But we got to get through this, so I won't
That's all right.
argue too much about
This
it.
became undisputed for a little bit.
I'm
It
just
did
saying.
become
I'm
undisputed,
just
but
saying.
except I'm right.
We don't have. Like, there's no score for this team. I just think that like North Carolina has so many players, in terms of like guys who like made real legit contributions.
Yeah.
And they've been
Yeah, they have.
Kentucky, and then it's like Duke. It's like, well, what did we expect? They didn't have anybody. They didn't have
Whatever.
anybody.
That's
They didn't have anybody.
That's your homerism.
Now they have had injuries too, so maybe
And I said that they've had injuries.
Derek Whitehead's
Yeah.
awesome.
The third one I had on here, this is a great story. It's one of those things that like all college basketball is rallying around this. It's a positive thing. The Big 12, they call it the Big 12, but there's only 10 teams. They have the legit chance to get 9 teams in the NCAA tournament.
They're so good.
Oklahoma's the only one that has a losing record right now. Probably the only one who you wouldn't say is going to get in. They still have 3 quad 1 wins on the season. Every night in the Big 12 is a freaking battle. And what sucks is a lot of their games, even the high level ones, are on like ESPN Plus. So it's behind a paywall, which is kind of stupid.
That's what I'm saying.
These aren't very highly popular teams anyway, but it's great basketball. So if you're not doing anything on a weeknight, there's a chance there's a fantastic Big 12 game coming on. I know you're going to talk about one here in a moment with Texas and Baylor. Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
What a game that is going to be. But yeah, the Big 12 is a juggernaut this year. And they've also performed extremely well each of these last few tournaments. They've made the championship game each of the last 3 years. It's the best basketball conference in the country. I encourage everyone to watch it.
Easy. And I'm a homer for the ACC, obviously, with my Duke in there. But all I'm pointing out is, do you remember about, I think it was roughly 6 years ago maybe, where the ACC literally had, I think it was similar to this, where they had like 7 to 8 teams. It was like Florida State, Virginia Tech, Virginia.
Yeah, they did.
North Carolina State, like all these teams, and that is very reminiscent of that, because usually we expect like the Big 10 and the SEC to send like a lot of really consistent teams, but now it's the Big 12 years to shine for sure. They are
it is
electric this year.
They
Glad
deserve
you
it.
pointed that
I
out.
wanted to bring up this question before the podcast when we were kind of looking over it. But what's the most amount of teams from one conference that has made the tournament ever?
That's actually
I don't know.
I think 9. I couldn't tell you who did it, but I think 9.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's been a double-digit number before.
There's really not.
I'd have to look that up. That is a good question, though.
Is there a chance that this is the new record for one conference? I mean, I don't know
Well,
if,
if
that's
they
been
get
brought
9,
up
I
yet.
think they'll tie the record. I think
They'll
it's
tie it.
probably the ACC or Big 10 that had it at
Yes.
one point. Yeah, I would say though, if they get every single team in, that would be
Right.
That'd be
That's the storyline that jumps out to me the most. From this.
Who's the last seed? Is it West Virginia? Like who's that sitting at number 10?
Oklahoma.
Really?
Yeah, Oklahoma's 10 right now. Oklahoma's 10.
They're
Texas
the last
Tech and West
seed?
Virginia are 8 and 9. I don't remember what order.
Really?
Yeah. They're 13 and 14. Every other team has a winning record.
I like this
Overall.
Oklahoma team.
No, I do too. You love their boy Sherfield.
Yes.
Is it Trent Sherfield?
I think it's Grant Sherfield.
Grant Sherfield.
Yeah. Wow, that's
Yeah.
I wasn't even aware of that. I thought it was probably West Virginia or Texas.
That
Tech
speaks
as
to
well.
how good the conference
Yeah.
is.
No,
Yeah.
for real.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My fourth storyline. Now, this is an interesting one that a lot of people.
He's been on this one, folks.
I have been on this
We're
one.
gonna talk about this.
I called it before they even had their first matchup. But
Mhm.
Gonzaga,
Mm-hmm.
the team that has been synonymous with 1 seed, 2 seed every single year for the last decade. It feels like Adam
Yep.
Morrison started it all 16 years ago or 17 years ago, which is
Yeah.
crazy. Think about it right now. They are not the best team in the West Coast Conference this year. St. Mary's, the Gales, led by Aiden Mahaney, fantastic point guard.
He's freshman stud.
I love him.
Stud.
They won the first matchup with Gonzaga. They're playing again this weekend. I'd love to hear. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that. But St. Mary's has just been a better team this year. Now, oddly enough, both of these teams have lost to Loyola Marymount, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Now Gonzaga lost at home. St. Mary's lost on the road. So I'm gonna give
So
the
it's
edge.
like who's better, you know?
So I'm giving the edge, but I'm giving the edge to St. Mary's thus far. I love this team. I've picked them as a dark horse to win the national championship this year. They play a really boring Virginia style of basketball, but they win. They win, and I love watching this team. So yeah, for the first time in a long, long, long time, Gonzaga is not the best team in the West Coast Conference.
Well, weirdly enough, I love that you pointed out that this played really, really boring brand of basketball because in the NCAA tournament, 2 things work.
Yes.
Play super fast, aggressive defense, shoot a lot of threes,
Mm-hmm.
or slow it down and waste all 30 seconds of the
Yes.
shot clock. It's like
there's no medium.
there's Auburn, there's Jimmer Fredette's BYU team, right, that had Davidson, Steph Curry, you know, all that stuff. But then you have like Virginia, like remember that Virginia and Texas Tech championship where it was like, is this going to be a 32-29 like
Right.
championship game? Obviously, it was way better than that, but if your team plays slow and you know how to play in the half court, just like UCLA's did 2 years ago, even though you may not be a top team, but they are. I mean, they're probably going to be what? Probably like a 4 seed, probably 5, maybe 4, 5. If they win, they're probably 3 seed.
St. Mary's you're talking about?
Yes.
If they win the regular season and conference tournament, they'll probably be a 3 seed.
That's what I'm saying. It's probably 3 seed.
But I'm kind of hoping they don't. I'm kind of hoping that
No,
they
you
like,
wanna be
maybe
like-
lose this weekend. Yeah, to get a little bit more of that
Interesting.
underdog
Yeah,
mentality because everyone's going to be coming for their throats in the tournament.
That is
especially
true.
If they just roll through the WCC, which there's a good chance that they might. but-
very good chance they might. So,
The last-
alrighty, yeah.
the
Get us
last
to
thing
your
I was
last
going
one.
to say is brings it back to SIU. The Missouri Valley is one of the best non-Power 6, one of the best mid-major conferences
Yes,
this
it
year
is.
overall. We don't really spend a whole lot of time talking about just the league in general, so I'm going to give it a little bit of a shine here. Bradley, Drake, Belmont, Indiana State, SIU all have over 20 wins so far this season.
Mhm.
Murray State's right there in the mix too. There is a chance, not a high one, there is a chance that we could be a 2-bid league, which we haven't been since maybe Creighton or Wichita State was
Yeah.
in the conference. The only team I could see getting in at large is Drake.
That's what I
If
was
they
going to say.
win the rest of their games and they make the Valley Tournament Championship, they're a good enough team who has a lot of players who were just in the tournament a couple of years ago that I could see them getting the respect from the committee, you know, having all these wins against the good MVC teams and then maybe losing to SIU or Bradley or Indiana State in the championship. I could see them maybe sneaking in at the last second because they are a really, really good team.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of, I remember it was multiple years ago when Murray State and Belmont played each other in the Ohio Valley Championship back before they just actually moved over here. And it was like the entire country was rooting for Murray State because they wanted John Morant in the not the national championship, but the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's going to happen. I think if Drake wins, we're only a 1 seed team. But like, let's say, you know, Bradley goes on a run, maybe Belmont could be that team. Because I've been impressed with both of them a lot. Honestly, Indiana State too, this dangerous team. I agree with you. I think Drake is probably the one outlier where it's like they would still get in. Just like my reference to earlier, Belmont ended up losing the OVC championship, but they still got in because they had Dylan Windler and a very, very good team.
Oh, yeah.
So
That team was awesome.
yeah, I completely agree with you, and I love that we do get to play in a conference that is so competitive.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
One thing I do just want to put out there, I'm just talking about the conference room, and I can actually talk about this because I followed a little bit of NBC just from
Yeah.
SIU. But
Yeah.
anyways, I really hope we pull Murray State. I don't know how the seeding is going to go. I really hope we pull Murray State, talking about SIU, first round, and then possibly Drake second round, and then whoever we need to face for the championship.
Bradley.
I really hope that's how it goes. Bradley would be great.
Bradley's a team we need a second shot against.
Yes.
Because we've beaten every other team in the league.
Right.
Bradley's the one that has been a thorn in our
But
side.
specifically, I was talking about that Murray State game. That would be wild,
Oh,
considering everything that happened
Oh,
at the
yeah.
end of that last one.
And I
Oh,
love
yeah.
that. I love that.
Terrific.
Seriously, it really would. It really would be. Okay, so to finish up here, we got 3 picks. Now I want to get your take on them
Yeah.
because we're gonna see how this goes.
Mhm.
Number 8 Texas at number 9 Baylor. Now, if you would ask me before they blew a 16 or 13-point lead at halftime against Kansas,
45,
I would have thrown my house on Baylor.
Yeah.
Plus Texas, Chris Beard, all charges dropped against him, so I mean I doubt he comes back to the program. But yeah, just say, but we might see him coaching Pepperdine next season.
Some big program is going to throw a bag at him.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Wouldn't hate if they did that.
my lord. Anyways, yes, you do. I think I'm still gonna go Baylor because it's at home. I just like Baylor's team better.
Yeah.
I'm actually really. We've talked about this personally between text group chats.
Yeah.
I love Keontae George.
Oh my gosh, he's so fun to watch.
Top 7 prospect. I love
So
him come out
fun.
of high school. Just a bucket getter, man.
He is.
And he's improved his passing game playing on a veteran experienced team like Baylor. So I'm gonna go Baylor, but this one, they're gonna be fighting tooth and nail.
Yeah.
This Texas team is no joke. I remember coming on here one of the first weeks and saying, this was before Chris Beard got fired, but like this Texas team would have been my championship pick.
Yeah.
Just because they have so many good players. Like they have like 9 guys.
Yeah.
That could start for any team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
They're just kind of like up in arms right now. Next game, the rematch. Number 17 Indiana at number 5 Purdue. So I see with these games I just don't know. It's at Purdue, but Purdue's they've been kind of sus lately. They haven't been playing very well. Indiana, you mentioned, lost that game to Northwestern, but when Northwestern's as hot as they are, like that game was just predetermined almost.
Mm-hmm.
I think I want to go with an Indiana sweep this year, which is wild. I'm
tough.
aware.
No, that's tough.
And more than likely, it's going to be Purdue.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with my heart because I just love this Indiana team. I've always loved Trace Jackson Davis.
Yeah.
I love Jalen Hood-Schifino.
Mm-hmm.
I think, who's that? It's number 32. Is it Galloway? Something like that?
Trey Galloway.
Trey Galloway.
It looks like Joe Jonas.
Yes, yes.
Like it's spitting image of Joe
I know,
Jonas.
it's actually
That's
wild.
insane.
But I'm going to go with Indiana. I think Jalen Hood-Schifino goes in there and he maybe pulls a Mikal Bridges at the Purdue bench.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. He's the X factor. Indiana
love him.
has lost this guy since Yogi Ferrell. Remember Yogi
Yes,
Ferrell?
oh my
They haven't had
gosh.
a guy like that since Yogi Ferrell.
Yogi Ferrell, that's a name I haven't heard in years.
Incredible name.
Yes.
But yeah, he's the X factor, and if they get their version of Xavier Johnson back
Mhm.
and their facilitator on offense, they're going to be an incredible team to watch in March. And all I would say with Purdue, outside of Zach Edey, what do they have? Like
That's what I'm saying.
that's how good Zach.
I mean,
Edey's been, though.
Braden Smith
Like,
is a good freshman. We
Braden
can't
Smith's a
deny
good
him,
freshman, but
like,
he's a freshman.
yeah,
Like he'll get there one day.
he's no Carson Edwards. He's no
he'll be that like Carson Edwards type soon. But after Edey, it's like if he's off, and he's not off often, but if he's not dominating this team, this team in trouble. That's
I
all
know.
I'm
That's what I'm
saying.
saying. I mean, you look at Indiana, right? They got a lot of good. All I'm saying is, go Hoosiers. Anyways, finally, I want you to take the reins on this one.
Oh,
Who's
I
winning? Number 15 St. Mary's at number 12 Gonzaga.
I wouldn't be
at Gonzaga.
So yeah, I have a strong opinion on St. Mary's this year. Like I just said, I think they're the best team in the WCC, which isn't saying a whole lot
Mhm.
outside of Gonzaga and them. I do think Gonzaga is going to win this game, and that doesn't really change my opinion on whether or not I think they're the best team in the WCC because I'm more or less projecting into March.
Yeah.
I think they have the best chance with their style of play. Like I said, the Virginia style, slow it down.
Well, I think that's good going into like a heavy
Absolutely.
atmosphere like Gonzaga.
Yes.
So.
Absolutely. Defense always travels. They talk about that in football a lot. And,
Mm-hmm.
it plays in basketball as well. Aiden Mahaney's a stud. I think he'll get his, but I do think Drew Timmy's he might have one of those 20-10 games. Like he's prone to having those. But Gonzaga, they just seem kind of off this year, and it
I
might be a
agree.
little bit of Drew Timme being. People have called him soft.
Here, can I throw this one out there? Is it
Yeah.
because they don't have that point guard? Remember the
Maybe
Jalen
so,
Suggs,
yes.
Andrew Nebhard? Like
Nebhard,
those
yeah.
guys could run a freaking
Yeah, they
basketball club. Now they just have Nasir, or is it Rasir? It's Rasir
Rasir
Bolton.
Bolton.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which, anyways, continue what you're saying.
No, yeah. Outside of Timmy, Gonzaga doesn't really have that strong second option. I mean, they've got good second options. Bolton's a good second option.
Yep.
Strother's a good second option.
Yep.
But they're missing that Suggs, that Kispert, that guy who can just take it and throw up a three if they need to get the team back in the game.
Mhm.
But I do think Gonzaga's going to win this game at home. Revenge factor, all that stuff.
All right. Well, I will go against you, and I'll just go St. Mary's
Okay,
just
well,
because.
and
Just
I hope
because
you're
I
right.
want. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I see. I hope. Well, I hope I'm right.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, because I've never been a giant Gonzaga.
I just want to point this out. I know you have been very adamant about picking St. Mary's to win it all this year,
Yes.
and you're going against that for this game.
For the game, just for the
For
game.
the game.
Yes.
I understand.
I don't.
I respect it.
I don't actually think they're going to win it all. I just think they're a dark horse. I think their play style
Okay.
Mhm.
fits a successful mold for March.
Yes.
I'll just
Maybe.
say that.
Yeah. Let's. Yeah.
And they've won the games in the fashions they need to convince me of that, which is why I feel vindicated in that. Another
Mhm.
team I'll just throw out there, Creighton. I think
Love Creighton.
they've got the roster. They're
Love
just now
Creighton.
starting to mold and form.
I know.
I like Creighton too,
I
but
love
we can talk
Creighton
about that
for
later. Maybe they'll show up on one of our game lists soon.
Yeah. Alrighty, folks. This has been it for episode 17. It's Cole, Joey, and Jordan, the guys. Third best podcast in the state of Illinois. Tell your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure subscribe, hit the bell, give us a like. If you're listening on Spotify, go ahead and give us a like, and then please follow our page. Thank you so much for listening. You guys have a great rest of your day.